Audience, 1, 2, 3. All right. So I'm here tonight, to talk about, it's a call to action. What I'm doing is asking everybody to reach out and talk and push for 6-year term limit for congressmen. At this point right now, we have 535 seats in Congress, 100 Senate, 435 representatives. Out of those, 110 of them have been in seat for over 36 years. The longest running right now, according to Amy Roberts on CNN Library, is Representative Dingle, who has been in the House since 1955. Wow. He is the longest running congressman, and he will continue to stay in seat. Actually, he retired in 2015, but he was the longest running so far. When you look at that, when you look at term limits and you look at the terms that your congressmen have been in, when they're elected, their salary is $174,000 a year. They have government paid health insurance. They have personal accounts, expense accounts, plus we won't even talk about the millions that they make when they start making connections. $174,000 in 36 years is over $6 million that they have made. When they retire, they keep their salary, they keep their health benefits paid for. They keep all retirement benefits. We as taxpayers, for every seat that is left, we are still paying them. We still pay them after they have left. The 22nd Amendment to our Constitution states that no president is allowed to stay in office over 2 terms. Yet we do not make this an amendment for congressmen. We'll allow congressmen to stay in for as long as they want. Our president is not allowed to stay in office to ensure that our presidency does not create a tyranny. Yet again, we allow 535 congressmen to stay in as long as they want. They can retire. They can move on to another position. Some move on to being an ambassador for another country. But even then, we'll pay their salary when they retire. Currently, the average age of our congressmen, 57 years old for senators, 61 years old for House representatives. And that's according to the History, Arts, and Archives of the U.S. Constitution. When you talk about qualifications, to qualify to be in the House, you have to be 25 years old, U.S. citizen for 7 years, and live in the state that you're going to represent. For senators, you have to be 30 years old. Again, I'll state, the average age of ours right now are 57 and 61. So it's kind of easy to see how we have a lot of old ideas, not really coming in with any new ideas. And you have people that have been in the seats for so long. One of the major arguments against term limits is that it punishes those with experience. We're going to punish those that have experience. They've been in, they really understand the position. Let's really dive into that. When you elect someone, when they were elected in 1955, they did not know the job. What we did was give them a lifetime chance to learn a position, let them retire, and still pay them later. Kind of a silly little concept. Term limits would allow a measurable time. A 6-year term limit would allow a measurable time for our congressmen to come in, bring in new ideas, make changes, and then move on to other things. With that 6-year term limit, we would also want to ask that they get a retirement just like the rest of the American people. They get health insurance and pay for it just like the rest of us have to do it. No longer the day should we have to have congressmen in for life and we pay for them until they pass away. Along with 6-year term limit, it also stops that recycling of ideas and that regurgitation that we seem to have in Congress right now, where we just regurgitate all the same issues and all the same ideas year after year after year because, well, it's all the same people. It's all the same ideas. They're not going to have any new ideas because they've been in for so long. So if you look at changing times, those that have been in 1955, the times are much different now than the times were in 1955, 1965, 75, all the way on up. We need to be able to bring in new ideas that are in the time, in the current changes and the current ideas. No, in 1955, one of the main ideas was mother stayed at home, father went to work, mom took care of kids, made sure dinner was on the table when dad came home. That is no longer the times. But we still have congressmen in that believe that that is still should be the theoretical idea behind families. So again, we go into that regurgitation, recycling of ideas. John Lund writes in Return of Term Limits that allowing for a six-year term limit reduces the ability for corruption. Right now you have, what it does is it takes away that immunity that long-term has, and no more, it doesn't allow them to create those connections and those personal deals and the personal gains that they have by swaying votes to make sure that their pockets have money, or to make sure that whoever's paying them the most gets what they need. Familiarity is lost. That's another idea or argument against term limits. We want people in that's familiar with each other. That's how they work together, because they're familiar. That's also the same reason there's corruption, personal deals, and personal gains, because they're familiar with each other. You pull that away from them, and now you actually have to make congressmen work with congressmen who are no longer in that boys' club. It changes the dynamics. My person. In a 2013 Gallup poll on term limits, 75% of Americans actually said we would vote for term limits. We want those term limits. We want to be able to change those people. That was in 2013. Now you look at the state of the government now and the state of the nation, and I would almost guarantee that would probably be even higher if you really look at where our thoughts are. So again, we have in the office, Leahy, 74 years old, been in for 40 years. Mikulski, 38 years. She's 78 years old. The youngest one that, actually Grassley, who's 81 years old, has been in for 34 years. Now, funny thing, in 1947, Congress limited the president to 2 terms, saying too much power for too long is a threat to our freedom. Congress said, President, you can't be in any longer, but we can be in for we can be in as long as we want. That's great. So if we change this theory and we change the term limit and make a 6-year term limit, what I like to call changing of the guard, what we do is we empower new ideas. We empower those new elected officials coming in to bring in those new ideas, to bring in that freshness into our government. Right now, if we were to impose a 6-year term limit, 134 Republicans would have to leave. 157 Democrats would have to leave. Think of the change that would be made if you brought in over 280 new representatives on each side who might actually be willing to work together instead of opposing all the time. Another argument against it, it's undemocratic. You're taking the free will of Americans to vote in who they want in office. How many times have you seen where they've gone unopposed and they just stayed in? I know I've seen it. Giving Americans the choice of new ideas, new incumbents, new elected officials, that's democratic. That's where democracy pops in. Being able to have those choices, being able to look at two new people, new fresh faces and say, that one holds more of what I want, instead of keeping in somebody for 36, 40, 50 years. Robert Reed and Eric Shandsberg's in the House under the term limits, what would it look like? Said Lincoln believed so much that frequent rotation in office was necessary for the well-being of democracy that he actually left his seat in the House of Representatives to allow new, fresh faces to come in. Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln believed it. We still don't do it today. Our presidents are limited to two terms to eliminate tyranny. Term limits allow for refreshed government, new ideas. Little irony for you. Our State Department actually ridiculed foreign leaders for wanting to stay in power for longer terms. The constitutional transition of power are essential for strong democracies, and that effort by incumbents to change rules to stay in power weakens democratic institutions. That is what our State Department said about foreign officials trying to stay in power. Our government is quick to ridicule foreign leaders for something our government has been doing for years. Kind of funny, but not really. Any questions?
So how do we ask for term limits for congressmen?
Great question. So in Colorado, you can go to www.termlimits.com. There there's a button that says take action. From there, you can go to contact your legislator. You also can reach out to your House of Representatives and your senators, also known as your congressmen, who are in power. Or you can also reach out to Scott Tillman, the National Field Director for the U.S. Term Limits, at stillman@termlimits.org.
And what happens when you reach out to them?
The hopeful is always that they're going to help or act. Then again, government's government. It's a great theory to be able to go out and reach out to someone. You already know that if you reach out to your congressman, what's your congressman going to say? More than likely going to say, well, we'll think about that. But there's still ways to reach out. And I always encourage everybody to just reach out, do what you can. Thank you. And again, they stayed for the speech.